Hey guys, happy Thursday. Yay, it's Thursday. So I know I've been pretty quiet lately. There really hasn't been much going on in the case until tonight. I decided to start reading over Brendan's appeal, or the appeal that they turned in, or whatever it was, but it's like 422 pages, so there's no way I'm doing it all in one video. So I'm gonna do break it up into like a series of videos. So tonight I just did the first like 15 pages, and I have 4 pages of notes. So there's a lot of shit in there. But let's start at the beginning. In the very first paragraph, the state claims how Brendan was uncontrollably crying for months. A blatant lie. Then they go on to say that they cite various case law, as any appeal does. And in that case law, they say how Wisconsin rarely ever overturns the case law, and they rarely ever overturn a confession that was coerced. Guys, that's the problem, is that you're not turning over confessions that were coerced. It's no secret that the Midwest as a whole has the highest rate of coerced confessions in the country. That is a fact. Chicago is #1. On top of that, they go on to say that Brendan was given his Miranda rights. Brendan was never given his Miranda rights, not once. We all watched the confession from beginning to end. Never did they give him his Miranda rights. They certainly didn't give him his Miranda rights in the beginning, before they started speaking to him. So right there was a blatant lie, but this gets much better. According to the state appeal, Brendan got off the bus at 3:45. Now, I really need you guys to listen carefully. Got off the bus at 3:45. Then it goes on to state that he went to his room in his house until about 4:30. At about 4:30, he then drove his bike to the mailbox. This is like on page 5. 5 of 422 is what it said. I didn't keep track of the actual pages. But then he went to his room until 4:30. Then he rode his bike over to the mailbox and grabbed the mail. He was looking at the mail and noticed that one of them had Avery's name on it. So he decided to ride over to Avery's. He then heard somebody screaming, blah, blah, we know the rest. But I'm going to get into the rest again. This was roughly between 4:30, got to figure it takes him 6 minutes to get there. Between 4:30 and 5. Now, according to Kratz's story in the press conference, Kratz says, now this wasn't in the appeal, I'm throwing this in. Kratz said that he got off the bus at 3:45, went to the mailbox, and went directly to Avery's to give him the mail. Let's go one step ahead. Josh Randit stated that he drove by Avery's and he was definitively positive, absolutely no question, that there was a big fire going at 4:42. So which is it, guys? Which story are you going to use? But it gets even better. It gets really better. Scott Tadich then, in one of his interviews, says that he saw the fire around 5:30. That coincides with Kayla, Stephen's niece, saying that she was driving by, or it was Halloween, because it was Halloween, but they were driving by and they wanted to see the fire, or she asked her mom if they could stay at the bonfire. That coincides with one of these stories, that there actually was a fire. But let's go back to what the state says. They said that Brendan, at 4:30, Brendan rode his bike, got Stephen, I said it's about 6 minutes. He gets to Stephen's door and bangs. The state claims he waited 5 minutes. Now, give or take, that's 4:45. Again, Josh Randin testified that he drove by at 4:42 and there was a big fire going. So now we're at 4:45, according to the state, and they are both still in the house. The state then claims that both of them were arguing back and forth. You got to figure 5 minutes of arguing back and forth, supposedly, according to the state's argument, which I guess was in the original trial. I don't remember every detail, but that Brendan said no, he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to rape her, and he ended up going back home. State claims that both her arms and legs were tied to poles on the bed. Stephen didn't own a canopy bed, So we all saw that he owned a regular bed. Now, if I remember correctly, there may have been a way to hang the, like, tie her arms up. That's possible on the top. There was absolutely no foot legs to tie her feet up. It then goes on to say that, let's travel down to page 11 now. The state claims that Brendan did nothing to Teresa at that time, came back to his house at 4:30. Okay, on page 5, they said that they left at 4:30, but now they came home at 4:30. Darcy claimed he was watching TV. His mom came home at 4:30. He was watching TV, spoke to his mom, yada yada, which according to the state was at 4:30. Well, if you jump ahead, this had to be 5:30. And again, no fire. So the fire that Scott saw, the fire that Josh Randon saw, never existed. And the fire that Kayla saw never existed at 5:30, according to the state. Then they go on to say that that he goes back to Avery's house, he ties her up, stabs her, cuts her throat, the whole 9 yards. If they worked as fast as possible, I mean absolutely as fast as possible, it would still take at least a half hour to tie her up, tie rope around her, wash her, cut her, the whole 9 yards. Pros probably did it in 30 minutes, max, okay? And that's if they're speed demons. And cleaned everything up. No blood, no nothing anywhere. There was none of Teresa's blood in Avery's house on September 4th. I'm sorry, November 4th. According to the timeline, if the state was wrong by an hour and it was 5:30, now we're looking at between 6 and 7. Again, still no massive fire that Josh saw. Now, last but not least, so after that, they first take her to the garage. So they drag a body or they carry a body for which they stabbed multiple times in the garage. Not 1 ounce of blood in the garage, not 1 ounce of blood in the grass, not 1 ounce of blood, anything. Okay. Then Avery, according to Brendan, according to the state, I should say, Brendan said that Avery decided that he was going to burn her. That's, according to them, that's the best way to get rid of the evidence. Okay, that might be true. Now, mind you, they both believe she was dead. They stabbed her, they cut her throat, everything. No blood anywhere, but this is what they did. Then they sat her back on the floor. I don't know where she was, but according to the state, they sat her back on the floor, and Avery had a change of heart and decided to shoot her 10 times in the head. Again, leaving no DNA in the garage, leaving no blood in the garage, leaving no blood in the grass, nothing. No blood anywhere, but they shoot her repeatedly. And they shoot her even though they believed that she was dead already. Then they decided to just throw her in a fire. Okay, I am not a rocket scientist, but I can tell you that this state is full of shit. It doesn't take a genius to see the timeline, how badly they fucked it up. And guys, this is only like the first 10 pages. I can't even imagine what else is in there. So I'm going to cut this with part 1, leave you guys that to think about, but I am absolutely blown away. I really, truly hope, and Drizzen and Laura are excellent attorneys. They've gotten them this far, but I know that sometimes attorneys have a tendency to look over shit. Let's hope that they don't look this over, because this is huge, huge. And I will get to part 2 tomorrow. You got my word on that. And I hope you guys have a great night, and definitely check it out. It's worth reading. It's crazy. So that's it. Have a good night. Peace.